On Point with Miss Britt, bringing you Week 8 college football recap. All right, Georgia had a bye, so let's get into some things. OSU versus Iowa. So this is the first game since 1995 that Iowa allowed the most points in a game. And by the way, Iowa is a top 10 defense. And I see people, talking about, Ohio State struggled in the first half, this and that, because we kicked 4 field goals. The defense did step up. But my thing is, okay, y'all saying that we should have scored touchdowns instead of those field goals. So then if we would score touchdowns on those drives instead of those 4 field goals, we would have been up 42-10. So, and I was a top 10 defense, so make it make sense. Y'all just be talking just to talk. So anyways, moving on. Yes, we had first half struggles. CJ Stroud, he fumbled the ball and it was recovered by Joe Evans for an 11-yard touchdown run and put Iowa on the board. But then after that drive, we got the ball. Mayan Williams, he rushed for a 2-yard touchdown. Our defense stepped up. Zach Harrison had a sack, which resulted in a fumble. And then we recovered. Tanner McAllister, he had 2 interceptions. Eichenberg, he had a pick 6. Our defense held Iowa to 10 points the entire game. In the second half, we made the necessary adjustments. CJ shook it off. He had 4 touchdowns. One to that 79-yard touchdown to Julian Fleming. He had a touchdown to Egbuka. He had a touchdown to Marvin Harrison Jr. and Mitch Rossi. And CJ Stroud finished 20 for 30, 286 yards, and 4 touchdowns and 1 interception. And Ohio State ended up beating Iowa 54-10. So that's not too bad considering they were a top 10 defense. So, I'm not even worried about it. It wasn't even that bad. 4 field goals, okay? We got on the board. All right, moving on. All right, number 3, Tennessee versus UT Martin. This pretty much was a pretty dominant game. Tennessee ended up beating them 65-24. They had touchdown runs by Jabari Small and Princeton Fant. There was a 45-yard pass from Hendon Hooker to Hyatt on the first drive, a 38-yard pass from Hendon Hooker to Ramel Kenton, and then a 22-yard run by Hooker on a 3rd and 19, and 49-yard pass from Hooker to White. So, they were offensively strong the whole game. The first half defensive plays included a huge tackle for a loss, and later a sack by Solon Page III, and then a forced fumble by Trevin Flowers and recovered by Aaron Beasley. Hendon Hooker ended up finishing off 18-24, 276 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Like I said, they dominated the entire game. Michigan, they had a bye week, and this week they do play Michigan State. Hopefully it's a competitive game. We know Michigan State's had some struggles. All right, so we got number 5, Clemson versus number 14, Syracuse. Clemson's QB, DJ Ugalele, had his worst game of the season with 2 interceptions and a fumble, which was recovered by Syracuse and a 90-yard touchdown run. And it put Clemson behind 21-7. They ended up taking DJ out the game and putting in their backup, Cade Klubnik, which he went into the 3rd quarter, and he scored 2 fourth-quarter touchdowns to win the game 27-21. So shout out to him. But Dabo, he made it very clear, Clemson's head coach, made it very clear that DJ will continue to be the starting quarterback, considering Cade won the game for them. Will Shipley, he scored 2 touchdowns, including a 50-yard touchdown run with less than 12 minutes to go in the game. He had a career high of 172 rushing yards. So like I said, they ended up winning 27-21. The first half was really ugly. It was looking like they were going to have an upset by Syracuse, but they rallied together. They ended up winning the game. All right, number 6, Alabama versus number 24, Mississippi State. After Alabama's heartbreaking loss last week to Tennessee, they got back in the game, and they had a dominant performance against Mississippi State. They won 30-6. Bryce Young was 21 for 35, 249 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Okay, now Oregon, they are slowly creeping up in the game. I mean, after, being blown out at the beginning of the season by Georgia, they've been slowly looking real good, and they getting back to who that team really is, the competitive team that they are. So, That's a sleeper right there. We got to watch out for Oregon. Oregon's quarterback, Bo Nix, he was a transfer from Auburn. He threw for 283 yards for 5 touchdowns and handed UCLA his first loss. Oregon's Troy Franklin had 8 catches, 132 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Oregon is now the only remaining undefeated team in the Pac-12 since UCLA lost, USC lost. UCLA's QB, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, he threw for 262 yards and had 2 touchdowns and an interception. And then Zach Charbonnet rushed for 151 yards and a touchdown. So Oregon defeated UCLA 45-30. So another creeper that's been, out there performing good is number 8 TCU. They defeated number 17 Kansas State 38-28. TCU was down by double digits at the half, what seems to be a running theme for them this season. They've been down double digits and they seem to rally back. So they were down double digits heading into the second half, and then TCU's QB, Max Duggan, he threw for 280 yards, 3 touchdowns, and then Kendre Miller, he ran for 153 yards and 2 touchdowns, and they won that game. Number 11, Oklahoma State versus number 20, Texas. It was a lot of back and forth that game. Oklahoma State, they sealed the win with a late interception by Kendall Daniels for 8 yards. So Oklahoma State ended up beating Texas 41-34. And like I said, it came down to the wire. Upsets, number 7 Ole Miss versus LSU. LSU's quarterback, Jaden Daniels, ran for 3 touchdowns and passed for 2. He came back from an early 2-touchdown deficit to hand Ole Miss his first loss of the season. So they were down early and they rallied back together and they ended up beating Ole Miss 45-20. Just some games to mention. Number 16 Penn State, they blew past Minnesota 45-17. And then shout out to Jackson State. They had their homecoming game and they beat Campbell 22-14. They are now 7-0 in the SWAC conference. And then QB Shadur Sanders, he was 23 for 31, 233 yards and a touchdown and an interception. So that's all the recap I have for you this week, and I will see y'all next week. I'm excited for week 9. We're getting into it. And also the college football playoff rankings should be coming out, I believe next week. So I'm interested in seeing what those first rankings look like. And I'm out.